Okay, getting back to our top story, residents of flood-ravaged High River up in arms after the Mounties came for the guns. Ezra Levant joins us in studio with his take on this. RCMP, do you think this was an active seizure of guns?
Well, that's obviously what it was. I mean, they say that's what they did, so I take their word for it. They say there was a large
active
quantity.
In that they went in and targeted guns?
Well, I mean, look, you have, what, 5,000-6,000 houses there. They surely weren't going house to house, door to door, to every single house. That would just be bizarre. I mean, why would you go into every house?
Because you think somebody's drowning in there.
Well, I mean, have they gone into all 6,000 houses?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know either. I mean, here's the thing. We're in sort of the fog of, I won't call it the fog of war, but the fog of a crisis. So maybe there is a legitimate reason to go into every single house. In some of the evacuated areas, they asked people to mark like with an X if they left, right? They did that in the city of Calgary. So were they going into all houses, just the ones to check? There may be a legitimate reason, as you just point out.
I'll put one forward, for instance. Sure. I recall in Slave Lake, there was ammunition cartridge,
right.
That went off because of the heat. And there were bullets flying around, and there were newspaper people walking out in the streets, and these bullets all went off. So, I can see where the precedent is there, where
right.
people go, whew, there's guns in the house, and, they're not properly stored.
Right. Well, are we going to also take out jerry cans of gasoline or cars?
That'd be a good idea.
Well, I mean, but what is the rule? Is there a rule? So I remember after the Boston Marathon bombings, the entire city was put under an order called a stay-in-place order. Basically, martial law, ordering every single Bostonian to stay at home. And there was such a shock of what was going on that for a day or so, Bostonians said, okay, I will stay in my house because there's two guys going around the town. But Naomi Klein wrote a book a couple of years ago called The Shock Doctrine, and she put forward the thesis that in a time of crisis, the government can get away with crazy things. Now, in her thesis, she said they roll back government. I don't think that's valid. I think the government in a time of crisis expands government, takes away liberties. I mean, look at after 9/11, how our civil liberties, even going through the airport, were restricted. Heck, it was World War I that brought in a new income tax. My point is, in a time of crisis, people are confused and scared. So their reflex is to say, oh, well, a guy in a uniform said he can go door to door in our houses and take stuff.
But that's why we have governments, to protect us. That's
really?
A natural reflex.
That's
to
why we have
rely on government.
That's why we have the Charter of Rights to protect us. But a government is nothing more than politicians and bureaucrats with powers that you and I don't. A government's
that we gave to them. That's
right, subject to the limitations in a Charter of Rights.
Yes.
We didn't give the government the power to do everything. For example, right in our Charter of Rights, we have something called the freedom from warrantless search and seizure. That means someone can't just come up to you and frisk you on the street. Someone can't just come into your home. Now, if there is martial law or a form of martial law,
or Emergency Management
right.
Act in Alberta,
but even that is governed. That does not allow complete lawlessness. I mean, Trudeau brought in the War Measures Act. Remember, during the FLQ crisis in about 43 years ago. But even that restricted what government could do. There were RCMP burning down barns of suspected FLQ supporters back then. That's not allowed under law. So my point is, if there's a genuine emergency subject to the rule of law, we allow things that we don't in a normal peacetime. But it's not anything goes. Pat, I want to give you points for asking sober-minded questions like, are they going house to house? Were they searching for people? But if someone marked an X, the house is gone, the house is evacuated, did they go in? Were they using lists of who had guns, the old gun registry list that was supposed to be destroyed? What will happen with these guns? But I have a bigger question.
I don't think they have the right to keep them if they seize them under the Emergency Management Act. They say they're going to give them back.
Well, they may say that, and I hope they do that. What troubles me is that a few days ago, the floodwaters were exceedingly high, and I can understand why they wouldn't want to let people back in. But I've seen footage as recent as yesterday showing dry streets in certain parts of that town, yet they're refusing to allow citizens back into their own homes. They actually put down a spike belt on the highway, and there's this mob of homeowners saying, my home is dry, I want to go back there. Why are you keeping me out? It's not like there's looters in there. There's forbidding homeowners. There are a lot of people in High River who have their own generators and their own pumps, and they want to pump out the water from their basement before the rot sets in. And bizarrely, you have police, in this case the RCMP, and there were some military there before, keeping homeowners out of their own home. What's the rationale for that?
I understand the rationale to a degree, in that if somebody goes to their home, turns on the switch to turn on the generator to pump out his house, and all of a sudden gets fried and the whole electrical system gets fried in the community, then hey, listen,
well,
I can see the benefit of keeping you out of your house until we're
sure.
Check the house out, you know.
Right, but that's treating adults as if they're children. That's saying we need nanny.
Not really. Not when you turn on the electricity in your house, because you think
Pat, I got to tell you, the country living, High River's a town, but those folks there have more savvy than your average big city dweller. I like to joke that folks in Toronto really don't know how to do anything. I'm joking around. Country folk know how to do things, especially High River. I mean, look at the name of the town, High River. These folks are used to floods, not of this scale. I bet you that your average homeowner in High River is going to be more careful, more conscientious, and more knowledgeable about cleaning up his own property than the government that might get around to it weeks or months later. They're still cleaning up in New York after the hurricane. That's what happens when you delegate it to a government bureaucrat. No one cares for his own house and his own personal safety more than a homeowner himself.
Yeah, don't argue with that. But
no, I mean, you raise good points, and I'm always glad when you hold me to account, Pat.
I try. Make sure you watch our primetime shows here on Sun News Network. You're home for hard news and straight talk, and sometimes we hold them to account.